Clean water is the first thing people lose in any crisis, yet most of the methods we've been taught are slow, limited, or heavily dependent on gear that fails when you need it most. What almost no one talks about are the older, cheaper, and far more adaptable purification techniques that work even when filters clog, chemicals run out, and the power grid is gone. These are the banned methods, ignored, forgotten, or quietly avoided because they're too simple, too effective, and too independent for modern systems to promote. Today, we're uncovering 10 powerful water purification tricks the government and the survival industry rarely mention, but every prepared person should know. Number 1. Pre-filter everything. When people first think about water purification, they usually jump straight to tablets, filters, boiling, or expensive gadgets. But professionals know the first step is much simpler. Remove as much visible dirt and debris as possible before you disinfect anything. This step determines how well every other method will work and how long your gear will last. In a real emergency, your water source may be a roof gutter, a muddy puddle, or melted dirty snow. None of that goes safely into a filter or boiling pot without preparation. Pre-filtering is easy. You pour the dirty water through a t-shirt, bandana, coffee filter, or even several layers of paper towel into another clean container. The cloth catches the biggest particles, leaves, insects, sand, and other debris. After that, let the water sit still for a while. Gravity pulls heavier particles to the bottom. The top layer becomes clearer, and that is what you treat. This simple habit protects your main equipment, reduces clogging, and increases the effectiveness of disinfectants like bleach or iodine. Beginners often skip this step and waste valuable supplies quickly. Experienced preppers treat pre-filtering as a standard rule because it gives you cleaner water, better safety, and more reliable long-term survival. Number 2. The DIY gravity filter. A gravity filter is one of the most useful low-tech tools you can create, especially when commercial filters break, clog, or run out of cartridges. This homemade system doesn't replace professional equipment, but it dramatically improves water quality and prepares it for the final purification stage. The concept is simple. You use a plastic bottle, bucket, or 2 stacked containers. The top container holds layered materials that trap different sizes of contaminants as water slowly drips downward. At the bottom of the container, you place a cloth or coffee filter. On top of that, add a layer of fine sand. Above the sand, put small charcoal pieces from a clean campfire charcoal. Helps reduce smells and absorb some impurities. Finally, place a layer of gravel or small stones on top to keep everything in place. Pour dirty pre-filtered water into the top. Gravity pulls it down through the layers, and what comes out is clearer, less cloudy, and more pleasant to work with. But clarity does not mean safety. A DIY gravity filter does not remove microorganisms or chemicals. You must always follow this step by boiling or using a chemical disinfectant. The reason this method is considered forbidden is because it challenges the idea that survival requires expensive gear. With basic materials, you can build an effective backup system that helps your family and neighbors during a disaster. Good prepping means using your supplies wisely and knowing alternatives when commercial tools fail. Number 3. Bleach done the right way. Many people know bleach can disinfect water, but very few know how to use it correctly. And that misunderstanding can make the method risky. Bleach is a powerful tool when used exactly as recommended. We are talking only about plain, unscented household bleach containing sodium hypochlorite. No fragrance, no splashless formulas, no thick gels. Just the basic chemical. In emergencies, a tiny amount of bleach is enough to disinfect clear water. Too much can irritate your body, and too little won't kill pathogens. This is why you follow official public health guidelines, not random guesses. These guidelines provide exact doses, usually measured in drops per liter, or quart and precise waiting times before drinking. After mixing and waiting, you should smell a faint chlorine scent. It should be light, not overpowering. If there is no smell, the water may have consumed the bleach because it was very dirty, and you may need to repeat the process. Another overlooked fact is that bleach has a shelf life. Over time, especially in warm storage, the chemical loses strength. A bottle forgotten in the garage for 2 years may look and smell the same, but it's weaker and less reliable for water disinfection. Serious preppers rotate bleach the way they rotate food, marking dates and storing it in cool, dark places. When used correctly, bleach is one of the most efficient, low-cost emergency purification options. The banned part is the lack of proper education. The safe method is simple. Use only plain bleach, measure carefully, and wait the proper amount of time. Number 4. Iodine short-term only. Iodine is another chemical treatment that many hikers, soldiers, and emergency teams used for decades. It is lightweight, effective, and doesn't require any fire or electricity. But iodine is not something you rely on long-term. It is a short-duration backup, not a primary everyday solution. Iodine disinfects water by killing many harmful microorganisms. But the water will have a noticeable medicinal taste, and this can make people, especially children, drink less than they need. That alone can cause dehydration during emergencies. Another issue is your thyroid. Your body uses iodine to produce hormones, so long-term or excessive consumption can cause problems. That's why iodine is not recommended for pregnant women, children, or people with thyroid conditions. The smart way to use iodine is as a temporary bridge. If your filter breaks, your fuel runs out, or you can't safely boil water, iodine tablets or tincture can help you through the next hours or days. You must follow the dosing instructions exactly and wait the full recommended time before drinking. Once you reach a safer location or have access to better methods, you switch. Governments don't avoid discussing iodine because it's dangerous. They avoid it because it requires precision, understanding, and self-discipline. For prepared adults using it temporarily and correctly, iodine remains a valuable tool in a complete water purification strategy. Number 5. Sunlight in a bottle. Solar disinfection, often called SODIS, is one of the simplest and most cost-effective ways to make water safer when you have sunlight and no fuel. It works by exposing water to ultraviolet rays and heat, which weaken or destroy many harmful microorganisms. This method has been studied and used widely in regions where access to safe water is limited. To use it correctly, you need clear PET plastic bottles, the kind used for soda or bottled water. The water must be visibly clear. If it is too cloudy to read text through, you need to pre-filter and let it settle before using SODIS. Once the bottle is filled, place it on its side in direct sunlight. A reflective surface like metal or foil increases effectiveness. On a bright, hot day, 6 hours of sunlight is typically enough. On cloudy days, you extend the exposure time according to official guidelines. SODIS is not a perfect method. It does not remove chemicals, fuel contamination, or salt. It works best in sunny environments and is less reliable in cold or heavily overcast areas. But its strength is in its simplicity. It requires no fuel, no cartridges, no batteries, just bottles and sunlight. For preppers, this method is a quiet, energy-free way to supplement other purification strategies. You can treat multiple bottles at once, reduce your dependence on scarce fuel, and ensure you always have a backup option when equipment fails. Number 6. The solar still trick. If solar disinfection is the simple version of using sunlight, then the solar still is the advanced version, the one that demands time, effort, and a bit of engineering. Most people never practice it because it's not fast, not flashy, and not something you can show off in a 30-second prepper hack video. But the truth is, the solar still remains one of the most reliable ways to pull pure water out of some of the worst sources imaginable. Salt water, swamp water, muddy runoff, even moisture from plants or soil. The solar still doesn't care where the liquid comes from. It strips it down to H2O and leaves the rest behind. The principle is straightforward. Water evaporates, turns into vapor, rises, condenses on a cooler surface, and drips back into a container. Everything else, salts, metals, microorganisms, organic contaminants, stays behind. That's distillation at its simplest. You can do this with a pot and lid over a controlled fire, which is great when you have fuel. But the more interesting method is the ground solar still, because it uses nothing but sunlight. Here's how it works. You dig a hole in sunny ground, place a cup or bowl at the center, pour your questionable water around it, and cover the hole with a clear plastic sheet. Then, you place a small rock in the center so the plastic slopes towards the cup. As the sun heats the ground, water evaporates, condenses on the plastic, then drips into the cup as clean distilled water. It is slow, sometimes painfully slow, but it's predictable. Under good sun, a well set still may give you 1 or 2 liters a day. And while that doesn't sound like much, in a survival situation, a liter can mean rational thinking versus panic, clear decision-making versus mental fog. What makes the solar still so powerful isn't speed, it's independence. You're no longer at the mercy of filters, tablets, battery-powered gadgets, or short-term chemical solutions. You're working with physics that will always function the same way, regardless of what's happening around you. That's why serious preppers take the time to practice building stills before emergencies. They experiment with hole shapes, soil types, angles, and plastic thickness. They learn how vegetation affects moisture output. The more you practice, the faster you become. Solar stills also build mental resilience. They remind you that survival isn't about instant results. It's about systems that continue working even when everything else fails. And that mindset shift, moving from relying on gear to relying on knowledge, is the forbidden part. It makes you harder to manipulate. It makes you capable of thriving in conditions that scare most people. And it turns sunlight, dirt, and a piece of plastic into one of the most reliable purification methods you'll ever have. Number 7. Nature's clarifiers. When people talk about water purification, they usually think of modern chemistry or modern equipment. But centuries before tablets or filters existed, humans relied on natural methods to improve water quality. One of the most underrated strategies is using natural clarifiers, which help muddy or contaminated water settle and separate faster. In many regions, especially in parts of Africa and South Asia, people still use crushed seeds from specific plants as natural coagulants. These seeds bind to fine particles suspended in water. Once bound together, the particles become heavier and sink, leaving clearer water on top. Other cultures used clay, ground minerals, or even certain types of tree bark that naturally attract sediment. The concept is not new, it's ancient water engineering that still works today. But here's the critical point for preppers. Natural clarifiers are not something you randomly guess with. You don't crush a random plant and throw it into your water. You need proper research, proper identification, and proper understanding of safe dosages. Many plants are safe, many are not. That's why this method belongs in the learn it now, not later category. For the average person who hasn't studied plant-based clarifiers, the safest version of this method is much simpler. Control sediment with time. Let water sit in a bucket or container overnight. Gravity will pull almost all suspended particles downward. By morning, the top layer will look clearer and feel smoother. Pour that layer gently into another container, leaving the sludge behind. Even without seeds or special powders, natural settling dramatically improves the effectiveness of whatever purification method you use next. This trick teaches an important prepping lesson. Not everything requires speed. Sometimes patience is the most powerful tool you have. Collect early. Let water settle. Pre-filter with cloth. Then use your chemicals, boiling, or filtration. You reduce stress on your gear, and you reduce the risk of drinking water that looked fine but wasn't safe yet. If you do want to go deeper and learn about natural coagulants, do it now, while you have the internet, books, and the ability to test things safely. Document what works for your region in your emergency binder. That way, you aren't guessing in a crisis. You're applying knowledge with confidence, the way ancient cultures did long before modern purification existed. Number 8. Quiet boil tactics. Boiling water is one of the oldest and most reliable purification methods known to humans. Bring water to a rolling boil for the recommended time, and you neutralize a wide range of pathogens. Simple, effective, proven over centuries. But in a real-world survival scenario, especially urban or collapse scenarios, boiling creates problems most people never consider. Fire is loud. It's bright. It produces smoke. It creates smells that travel. In situations where you need to stay discreet, boiling water the wrong way can reveal your location instantly. That doesn't matter during a weekend power outage. But it might matter in a long-term emergency where resources are scarce and strangers are desperate. This is where quiet boil tactics become essential. First, always boil with a lid on. It saves fuel, reduces steam visibility, and speeds up the process. Next, use the smallest flame possible for the job. A compact camping stove or rocket stove burns far more efficiently and with far less smoke than a large open fire. You also want to choose sheltered locations, behind rocks, inside windbreaks, inside damaged buildings, or behind your home, so smoke disperses rather than rising in a perfect column. Another key tactic is batching. Instead of boiling a cup or two every time someone is thirsty, boil a large batch once or twice a day. Let it cool and store it in clean containers with lids. This reduces how often you need to start fires, minimizes noise and visibility, and conserves fuel, which becomes incredibly valuable when supply chains break. Quiet boiling is not just a technical skill. It's part of a mindset, conserving energy, avoiding unnecessary attention, and planning ahead. Beginners often boil impulsively. They think about the next hour. Experienced preppers think about the next 24 hours. They stock fuel, maintain backup stoves, organize pots with lids, and understand how to boil bigger batches with less exposure. Boiling remains one of the safest ways to purify water, and when done with strategy, it becomes a low-risk, fuel-efficient, and predictable method that works in nearly every emergency. Number 9. Store before you're thirsty. One of the most hidden water purification tricks has nothing to do with purifying water at all. It's about avoiding the need to purify water in the first place by storing it early, safely, and consistently. Many disasters unfold suddenly. When they do, the moment people realize water is limited, stores empty out in minutes. Getting water ahead of time means you avoid all that chaos. Most official recommendations say 1 gallon per person per day, but experienced preppers know that's the bare minimum. Cooking, cleaning, hygiene, and medical needs all increase your consumption. The key isn't just storing water, it's storing it correctly. Use food-grade containers. Rinse them thoroughly. If the source water was already treated, you don't need to add anything extra. If it wasn't, follow disinfection guidelines before storage. Water storage has rules. Keep it in cool, dark places. Keep it away from chemicals and fuel. Rotate it regularly. Check containers for signs of damage or leaks. Different living situations require different strategies. In houses, you can store barrels, bins, and jugs. In apartments, you get creative. Stack containers under beds, behind couches, on closet floors, or inside cabinets. You don't need giant tanks to build resilience, just consistency. A few liters added every week becomes a massive advantage over time. The hidden benefit of stored water is psychological. When everyone else is panicking, you're calm. You're not forced to drink questionable water or try untested purification methods under extreme stress. Your stored water becomes your first line, and your purification tricks become backups instead of your only hope. This is a major mindset shift most prepping videos never mention. Real preparedness feels quiet and boring, but boring is what keeps you alive. Number 10. Redundancy is real power. The final banned trick is not a technique, it's a philosophy. Never rely on a single method. Never trust one filter, one chemical, one tool, or one strategy. Survival is unpredictable, and water is too important to leave in the hands of a single system. Filters break, chemicals run out, batteries die, weather changes, fires fail, and sometimes the thing you depended on just isn't available when you need it. That's why professionals build layered redundancy. You start with a primary method, maybe a household filter, a portable pump filter, or a gravity-fed unit. Your second layer is stored water. Your third layer is chemical disinfection like bleach or iodine. Your fourth layer is boiling with quiet boil tactics. Your fifth layer is solar disinfection. Your sixth is a solar still. Your seventh is everything you've practiced and learned to improvise. Redundancy also protects your mind. When you've practiced multiple methods, nothing surprises you. You're not paralyzed when something breaks. You simply switch techniques. Your family sees that calm response and follows it. Without panic, you make better decisions, conserve more resources, and stay healthier. Companies don't advertise redundancy because it doesn't sell well. They want you to think one product solves everything. Governments don't emphasize it because self-reliant individuals are harder to control, harder to frighten, and harder to manipulate with shortages or emergency announcements. But redundancy is the heart of real preparedness. Understanding multiple purification methods makes you flexible. Practicing them makes you competent. Using them together makes you resilient. And resilience, quiet, disciplined, informed resilience, is the real power no one can take from you. Not supply chain failures, not economic collapse, not natural disasters, and not the loss of modern conveniences. When things go bad, water becomes the line between functioning and failing. The people who know only one method will struggle. The people who know many will adapt. And the people who've practiced these banned tricks, the solar still, the natural clarifiers, the quiet boiling, the thoughtful storage, and the redundancy mindset, will have something far more valuable than gear. The confidence that they can handle the situation, whatever comes next.